What are some of the leading indicators that you have been, impressing upon your originators over the last couple of years? And maybe you could even talk about an originator or two specifically that has done well, if you feel comfortable doing that, and why they've done well, like what you've seen in them that has led to them being successful in this market.
Yeah. One of the guys that you just got a chance to spend some time with, Justin Padron, is a phenomenal example of this. When I first met Justin, he reached out to me. He saw a lot of the stuff that we were posting on social media, and it connected with him. And he reached out to us a couple of years ago, 2.5 years ago or so now. And he was doing decent, right? He was doing good business, but he was just like every other mortgage professional, right? Just trying to go out, get business, quoting rates, trying to close loans. And he is one of the most open to learning and executing people I think I've ever met. And so when he came on, he lived in our training environment for hours a day, right? He would watch game film. He would listen to recordings. He would, read scripts. He would, practice with himself and others in role play, and reach out to me, and we'd work through things, and he'd send me his game film and I'd critique it. And, he would literally call me at 9:00 at night and be like, "Hey, I'm working through this thing. I've watched a couple hours of this now." He puts his kids to bed, and now he jumps on Loan Atlas and he's watching and he's learning. And he's had the best year of his career in 2023, which almost nobody can say. And then he'll beat that again in 2024. And it's because he was open to being new, right? He really came at the industry like he was new to it. He almost just disregarded the things he did to the past. And that's one of the things, Tim, that, we named our company NEO, which means new. It's because oftentimes that's the advantage, right? New companies or new individuals or people who are treating their businesses new, they're not bound by the expected or ingrained way of doing things, right? You typically see bigger, more established people who've been more successful 20 years, big companies, right? They have a certain way of doing things, and they're really hard to pivot that ship. And by necessity, someone who's new is really constantly experimenting, right? They're in an experimentation mode to invent a whole new product or business idea. And that's really what we've done. And that's what our team is doing. And obviously that's what Loan Atlas is doing, trying to create that mortgage professional of the future. Because it's not about coming up with a great idea in round one, right? It's about evolving every round through round 10, right? And continuing to learn and see what your opponent's doing and see what the market's doing, and, becoming open to changing. So some of the leading indicators that we really focus on, and, a lot of them are a little squishier than I'd like them to be, but we say, how many times do you surprise people in your conversations? And people say, well, what do you mean by that? When you tell someone what you do, how often do you say, "Oh, wow, I've never heard of that," or "Oh, that's cool," or "That's interesting," or "That's different," or "That's unique," right? How many times do you tell someone something that they're not expecting to hear from you? Right? Because to me, that's a really great leading indicator that you have an opportunity to impact someone in a positive way, right? They're now open to hearing you. How many, when you're meeting with a client in a client consultation, how often are you teaching them something that they didn't know?
Yeah, can I jump in on that? Because that's funny that you brought that one up, because I was just thinking, I've never done this, but this just kind of popped into my head. A really cool thing to maybe say at the end of a client consultation would be, so if you would, before we're done, share with me anything that you learned today that you didn't know before we had our conversation.
Yeah.
Which then does two things, right? Because you're so spot on, those are great questions you're asking. How many times did you surprise somebody? How many times did you show uniqueness? How many times did you teach them in a conversation? If an originator looks at it through that lens, then they're going to be constantly compelled to learn and grow and evolve and get better. So those become conversations where the answer is 3 things, 4 things, et cetera. But if you ask the client that question, essentially what you're saying is, so just so you understand, or just so we're clear, like, this is what you get in a relationship with me, is that you will learn about your financial situation. You will continually improve and get better. You're kind of highlighting your value proposition by asking that question, but you're also highlighting for yourself. It's like we're taking the focus off of stagnancy and putting it on evolving, right? And I think that newness that you're talking about with Justin is so incredibly important. Keep going. Sorry to interrupt, but like, you really hit on something there that I want to play with in my head, because I think that's a brilliant concept.
Yeah, it's the same concept with real estate professionals, referral partners. Like, if you're meeting with a real estate agent, at the end of it, great question to ask is like, what did we, of the stuff we talked about today, what were some of the things that you didn't know, that lenders would do in a business partnership, right? That we may have uncovered today, right? Because when I get done with a presentation to a real estate agent, or if I do a lot of real estate of the future presentations to the mortgage industry and the real estate industry, I get people come up to me at the end of those things all the time. Like, I had no idea that lenders did that. Like, this is incredible. I can't wait to work together, because I never thought about that in my business. I never approached it from that angle. And to me, that's where I know that, that's a success metric, because everything after that just becomes infinitely easier, right? It becomes easier to solidify that partnership. It becomes easier to participate in every aspect of that agent's business. It becomes easier to go deeper in your client's life. It becomes easier to introduce them to their client success manager and have them actually opt in and engage in your longer term strategy, all because you open their mind to something that they didn't know. It's really the challenger sale, right? That's the philosophy of really where we learn this. Is that everyone thinks that whoever has the best relationship wins. And that book completely dispelled that myth. It's like, it's not about your relationship. It's about the value you're adding that people didn't know or didn't expect from you.